first I want to say that this is not a formal presentation. I feel free to interrupt me or ask questions. If you have a particular interest in land records that you are wanting to know about, feel free to jump in and ask that question. I'm just going to go through some basics of it and show you some types of records that I know you can find, some locations online, and I'm going to suggest some books that someone else in another presentation suggested. So I'm passing that information on because they are all good books to help you with, and had lots of experience with courthouse records and land records in particular. So for the average person, you're not as familiar with them because you don't deal with them on a daily basis like I have in the past. So to get started, let's talk about what are land records, right? There is a person designated in each county to handle land records. They can vary in the types of things, but let me open up this PowerPoint and see if I can get it to work. I just did some stuff to keep me on track. All right. Are you seeing the presentation screen or the one with all my slides?
That looks good.
Okay. So what are land records and who keeps them? They are generally the most well-found records in the county's offices are related to a particular piece of property, but there are other types of records that they keep and that this person also keeps. The county clerk is usually, in Oklahoma in particular, the county clerk is who serves the public as the official keeper of the county records. And these records include instruments filed by private citizens and public officials, such as real estate related filings, mortgages, plats, military discharges, leases, oil and gas production, tax liens, etc. Some places, the county clerk, the person that handles them is called a register of deeds. Generally, when I'm looking to find a resource online for a particular county, I'll search for Brown County, Kansas Recorder of Deeds or Brown County, Kansas County Clerk. Sometimes that will pull up the right person, and sometimes it'll just pull up the court clerk, but generally you can click through and find the other one. They're all legal instruments. I will say that military discharges in the last so many years, they've made private. Those were encouraged by the people that were in the service to be filed in the county records, but they didn't always do that. But now you have to prove you're related to somebody, directly related to them, to get a copy of their discharge papers. And those discharge papers are helpful for getting their serial number for the service and when they were entered and when they exited, and there may be a little bit of other information on those as well. So that's a type of record in those offices. Another one that's not mentioned on this is the school census records that in Oklahoma are kept at the county clerk's office. Let's see if I can get this to flip. There. These were some helpful books, and I know Sue and I think Linda Morgan watched a presentation, and these were the books that they recommended, weren't they, Sue?
Yes, they were.
Yeah. And you can find these still online if you are looking for them, because I actually, after I saw this list, actually went and bought a few of them. So I'm happy to send this presentation on to you too later if anybody wants the slides so that they can have that list or some of the links for the online resources that we're going to look at.
Okay, that'd be great.
So in land records, there are different ways that land became a private owner became in possession of land. There's lots of military bounty land for people that served in different wars from all the way into Arkansas. I know there's military bounty parcels there. There's homestead, which is where the government took parcels of land and divvied them up to people, and you had to do certain things. You had to file an application, and then you had to do certain things for a certain number of years, and then they gave you a land patent, and you would be the first white person to own that land if you had the land patent. There was in Oklahoma, I know there's an area down around Tillman County that was given away by lottery. So there was different ways to get that, but always the first document you're going to find in Oklahoma in particular for lands is the land patent. So if you knew your person was here during the land run and got land, or that they were the first person that owned a parcel, I would go to the BLM website and search for their name there. There's another resource that's very good for Oklahoma. He doesn't have everything, but there's a lot of it, and it's historygeo.com.
Yes.
And we'll look at that. And you could type in a last name and look across the whole US at what he's got entered into his system. He's got different states entered in there. It's a work in progress. Or you can refine it to, if your last name's Smith or Jones, you don't want to just type in Jones and see how many there are in the US in that database. The other thing that you could do in Oklahoma to try to find those original owners is look at the Oklahoma tract books. And Ancestry has those. I was looking at those a little earlier. They don't appear to be indexed. The Oklahoma Genealogical Society, they sold the tract books and indexes and things on a CD. I think they do still sell them that you can get, or you can go to the History Center and look at the records there as well too. So that's kind of where it started. So once a person owned a piece of land, then they would sell it, and it would just keep passing on and on until current day. So there's lots of transference documents over the years. Those are all found in the courthouse in the land records. So whether it was a deed from one person to the next, whether the property was taken by the county for some reason, and there's a sheriff's deed there's all kinds of documents that you can find along the way to trace that history. And I think Michelle will get into some of that tracking of that when she talks about house histories in September, right, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the things I like to know before I start looking at land records is some terms, because in looking at these books, you need to know what the different parties mean. And one of the reasons that you need to know, for instance, grantee and grantor, is because a lot of the courthouse books, there's a grantee index and a grantor index. So you need to know if your person was the buyer or the seller. So you've got to figure that out, because you would think they would all be in the same book, but they're not. Both names will be listed there, but they're indexed by one or the other. So for instance, I was trying to find land in Delaware County that belonged to one of my ancestors. And so I pulled the grantor index to see if I could find his name. And when I found where he bought some land, where I found when he sold some land, I'm sorry, I then went and got that property address's name, or excuse me, I got that property address and that information out of that book, and then used it to go look in the other books to find when he bought it.
Okay.
So the legal description becomes very important when you're tracking land back or forward or reverse. You need to know what that legal description was. And Here's a little problem with that. It might have been 1,000 acres when it started out, and it just keeps getting parceled out into pieces. And they might be city blocks now, and lots. Those legal descriptions kind of get refined over the years and broken up. So it's kind of a process to figure out what you're looking for. So take time to learn some of these terms before you go to the courthouse to do research, or even before you look online for those records. So you'll know whether it's a husband and a wife buying the property, or it's your guy was the buyer or the seller, or the type of deed that is given. A quitclaim deed, I think, is kind of interesting. We're dealing with this at work in Texas, because we had two different companies and they quitclaimed the deed to the other one. Well, basically a quitclaim deed means if I own anything on that if I have any interest in that property, I'm giving it to you. It's not saying I do, it's just saying if I do. So there's that. It's not as straightforward as a deed with warranty, where you say, I own this land and I'm selling it to you, I'm deeding it to you. A lot of times in estates, you'll see quitclaim deeds. Years ago, my husband's aunt passed away and she had a house in Muskogee, and when they sold it, he was entitled to a certain percentage of it. Well, they made me sign a deed as well, saying if I had any interest in that house, my interest was transferred as well. So there's lots of online sources. I've listed one here for legal terms that you can look at, because that list on that previous slide was just a few terms. There's a ton, and a lot of them are Latin terms. And so you kind of have to start picking up a little Latin to understand what those things mean. My favorite resource in the whole world is this okcountyrecords.com. Some counties in Oklahoma have their records all the way back from statehood till now, and some only have from 1977 till now. So you have to go on there and look, but this is the best resource you can get for land records online in Oklahoma right now. I also said newspapers. That's a great online resource, because they listed land transferences in the newspaper. If a person was getting a homestead, they had to put a notice in the paper for so many weeks saying that they were making a claim and that they had these witnesses. I search for some of my ancestors all the time, and it pulls up where they were witnesses for other people's homestead application notices. So check those newspapers for your guy and see if you find anything that gives you a hint. I found some land transferences in Payne County, Oklahoma for my great-great-grandfather. I didn't know he ever lived in that county. But it gave a short legal description and the date and what type of a document it was. And then I was able to track those documents down and track when he purchased the land, when he sold it, and when he moved on. So definitely newspapers are a great resource. And then Family Search has a lot of county records on their website that you can access. A lot of them are not indexed. You have to look through them just like you would in the courthouse. You're looking through the pages of a deed book, page by page. So that's a good online resource. This is the Oklahoma County Records website, and we'll go to the live page here in a minute, but I just wanted to throw that in. And you can see down here at the bottom, it shows types of documents that you'll find. An interesting type of document that I love to find in land records is an affidavit of surviving joint tenant, because it tells me when the other party died, and guess what's attached to an affidavit of surviving joint tenant? Death certificate. So That's something in land records that people, and even though you can't just go to, out online and grab a death certificate instantly, if it's on okcountyrecords.com, I can pay $1 per page and download it in 5 minutes. So keep that one in mind. This is just a little thing showing you how I get to land records on Family Search. I go to search and records, and then the catalog. I type in my location under place, and then it pulls up pages, and you can see there's lists for land and property. And then you can go, this one is showing you some of the types of land records that you're going to find, the miscellaneous records. There's all kinds of things in that. I need to see if I can find a good description of what I need to call the county clerk and say, what do you guys put in miscellaneous records? That would be good to know. There's deed records, mortgage records. They keep a separate book if your guy got a mortgage on his property. Farm lease records. Even if your guy never owned land, he maybe leased some land. And back in the day, they used to always file leases. Now, not as much, but I actually found some farm lease records from my grandfather in Ottawa County, not thinking that that would be an option. Let's see. If you go to the courthouse, these are the books. They are no joke. They are very, very heavy. This was in Payne County, but when I was in Cleveland County one time, I had to get all of these books down myself, and they're pretty tall. These shelving cabinets are pretty tall, and taking those books down off those shelves is not for the faint of heart, and carrying them over to a table so that you can look through them. So keep that in mind if you go to the courthouse to actually look at records. I always think I should have brought one of my grandkids with me that can do all my manual lifting. This is a tract book. This is what I was talking about that Oklahoma Genealogical Society sells. And this is for Oklahoma. And it's kind of hard to read. When I look at these, I always think, gosh, they're so hard to read, but it's got the person's name in this column, the name of the purchaser, the date of the sale, and here's a receipt number. And it says to whom patent is what that column says, but it's got the location, Guthrie, which is where a land office was. And it says, like this one says, relinquished November 15th, 1911. So even if your person tried to get land but didn't follow through with it, they might be in this book, and you can tell where they lived for a certain period of time, right? I can tell what the date of the sale was and when they relinquished it back to the government. So check those tract books out, especially for people that said they were in the land run, but you can't find them in any land records anywhere else. These are some records from the Ottawa County Courthouse. This is a deed record book. On the left is the index. And one of the biggest things that I found with courthouse books and indexes is that if they ran out of room on the G page, they maybe flipped back to the O page and wrote the rest of the entries for the time period on O. And there's nothing on the G page that tells you to flip back to the O page. So don't just look at what letter of the alphabet that your person was in. Look through all of the pages to make sure there's nothing like that. And the other thing that I found, which I think is interesting, is a lot of them will have the G's divided up into sections. So it'll have GA names, and then a couple of pages later, you will find the GE names, and then you might find the GI names. They're not necessarily in date order so much as they're in order by the first letter and the vowel.
Okay, Annette,
Yes.
Carolyn has her hand up.
Okay, I'm sorry, Carolyn.
Yes, I had a question. You said you're researching through newspapers for the
Mhm.
deeds and the
Mhm.
when they were witnessing.
Yeah,
How do you write in to get the search?
What are your search terms?
to the
Is it-
county, to the
Yeah.
county.
Well, like you said, Payne County, and you were
Okay.
looking for your great 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 grandfather.
Mhm.
What would you use as a search term to get those?
Well, I had the date of the newspaper and I had the type of a notice it was. So notice of a homestead claim or whatever. With that, I could go on the homestead claim, I could go to the BLM site and look for the land patent itself.
Well,
If it
my
was a deed, I would just write to the county and say, I found a deed on this date in the newspaper for Payne County. And the buyer was this person and the seller was this person, and this is the short legal that was on there. And they usually look them up for me.
I have patent receipts,
Okay.
but I've never been able to find the patent record. It's not over in the BLM.
Hmm.
And I've always wanted to know because he bought and sold a lot of property. And then before he died, he put a sheriff's sale up to sell everything because he went to
What,
live with his son before he died.
Carolyn, what state is this?
Payne County,
It is
Oklahoma.
Payne County? Okay. Okay.
That's why I was asking because you were talking about Payne County.
Yeah, yeah. So you have a patent receipt.
Uh-huh.
And I would write to Payne County and ask them for a copy of the patent. And I would include a copy of the receipt
Okay.
and say, Here's my guy's name. Let's see if I have my I did a bunch of letters to, I think it was Noble County. I know they love me when I start writing to them asking for deeds. But it was a very, oh, you know what? I did it through email. And I just emailed them and said,
Okay.
I'm looking for this transaction. I gave them my information. They emailed me back and said, for a copy of this, mail us a check for $2. And then they didn't take any form of electronic payment. So I wrote a check for $2 and stuck it in an envelope and mailed it to them. And they mailed me the deeds. So,
Oh, okay, I'll do that then.
but if you have any trouble, let me know and I'll be happy to try to help you figure it out.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Here's some of those forms that we're talking about. This is a farm lease on the left that I found in land records. And this is my guy, Edie Dover in Ottawa County, and tells me when he leased the land, how long he leased it, and for how much he paid. This is a real estate mortgage, my parents to my grandparents, which I loved. It told that they
Mhm.
paid $13,000 for their house in 1960 something, probably. No, 1970, and they paid $13,000 for it. This is a school census record that you can find in those land records. I love this one because this is my great grandfather, Park Crafton, and this is his kids this is the children living in the household of school age. This doesn't mean they were attending school. It just means they were of school age, but it says they moved away. So I know a really short time frame of when he moved from that record right there. So sometimes the canceled stuff is more helpful than the other stuff not canceled. Okay. So let's look at some stuff online. I can get my
You
screen
may
to
have to
share.
get out to,
Stop share.
yeah, and then come back in and
Yeah.
choose your monitor.
Okay, Google. All right. So let's look at oklahomacountyrecords.com. So this is how many land records they have available right now. 20 million, 74 million scanned images. Now, I'm not sure how that equates, but 65 counties. And if you go down here to the bottom, it shows you in blue which counties are on there. The white ones you're going to have to look for somewhere else. Payne County is one of those, Carolyn, and we'll talk about their page in a minute. Tulsa is one of those. They have a whole separate page. Creek County is a separate one. And if I remember right, the last time I was on the Creek County website, I didn't have to pay anything for the records I downloaded. So, and you can search by the whole state by typing a name in here, or you can pick a particular county. Let's just pick Ottawa, my favorite county. And you can see index data and images from November 1992. So check that information before you just search, because if your transaction was in 1960, it's not going to help you to search this. There's also this book list, and it shows you that the books are here, and sometimes it's helpful to look at these that way. There's plat maps. Plat maps are wonderful. Sometimes they give you information that they show you the neighbors, they show you, especially if you know a subdivision to look at. I've done lots of research where I was trying to figure out the neighborhoods, the people in the neighborhoods, and these plat maps were very helpful. And again, there, if you click on one of them, well, let me log in. Anybody can set up account to this. There's no requirements. And you just pay for the copies. All right, plat maps. Let's try it again now that I'm logged in. My internet's a little slow tonight.
That date on there from 1992 or whatever it was, they don't have anything earlier than that on there.
Not on that, not for this county.
Okay.
That's the only, so it's not like letting me look at it, but I can print it for one token, and the tokens are $1 a piece. And you can buy, see right now I have 39.25 tokens on my account because I just buy them, and like I'll buy 50 tokens and just keep that on there. But I could click on this print and it would pull it up, and then I could print to PDF so that I could save it on my computer. So that is how you do that.
You said that was Oklahoma County.
This was Ottawa County.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay. Let's look at one. Let's look at Noble County and see. Theirs go back to July 1996. And the fun thing is you just get to play with these. Let's look at Dewey County. Theirs is 2000, but they have scanned images from 1985. So that's something you need to pay attention to. They're indexed starting in 2000, but they're on here from 1985. So that's if I knew that my guy bought something in 1990 and I knew what book it was in, I could go to this book list, pick the book, even though it's not indexed. See all these say non-indexed? And then I could actually go look at those pages. This is saying only, these are only at the courthouse. I must have picked a book that they don't want me to look at. I know I've looked, maybe it's Lincoln County. Nope, that's just 1993. I promise there's some older records than this on here because I've looked at them. Okay, here's Delaware County, and it's going back to 1958. And here's an interesting thing. The index goes back to 1958, but the images only go back to 1967. So it might pull up your person and give you the information, but not show you the document. but then you would have it to call Delaware County and get that document. Okay, so that's
So
that
do you
one.
think they're still indexing and scanning?
Yeah, they are. They are. But I will say this. They're a service for the county clerks. So they're more focused on going forward than they are going backwards. So they're trying to keep them up to date as they go forward. So they don't go back as often. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you
All right.
wanted one of those earlier records, they could go to the book and maybe get you a digital copy of it
Yes.
or a copy. Okay.
Or copy and mail it to you.
Yeah.
All right, so let's look at some individual sites. This one's for, most of the state of Oklahoma, but let's look at some individual ones. This one is Payne County. They do have their own site. You can go to it, click on land records, and it asks for a username and password. I can't remember what mine is. And so I clicked recover password earlier and I still haven't gotten the thing to reset it. So I won't get to show you that one. But let's look, this is Tulsa County. Tulsa County is a little different and it's got all of these things you can search by.
Hmm.
And the thing with Tulsa County is that they have subscriptions. So you can buy a 1-day subscription, a 1-week subscription, I think, a month or a year. So usually what I do when I need something from Tulsa County is I buy a 1-day and then I just put in every name I think I could ever possibly want to look at and download any potential document for any person I know. So that I used my 1-day subscription well. Let's see. In Tulsa County, there's another thing that helps you with, and this can help you with any land records. If you know an address, but you're trying to find out more information about it, you can go to the Tulsa County Assessor's site. I use this all the time, all over the US, looking for or for information about parcels. I go to the Tulsa or the assessor's office. I find the address and get the information on that. A lot of times it will tell you the last so many sales. So you can get that information. I will tell you that I use this a lot for live people. I actually just helped a friend in Texas try to find the current owners of some properties she wanted to buy. And I used the assessor's office to start with to get names. And then when I was trying to track those people down, I went to the assessor's office in the county they lived at, we believed they lived at currently, and found where they owned property and got their mailing addresses. So this is a good site for that. Let's just try to think of a name. I can't even, my mind's completely blank. Let's just type Jones. That's easy enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to show me all the Joneses that own property in Tulsa County. And then you can click on view info and it'll show you all kinds of, this is showing me a picture. It's showing me their address. They live in Muskogee. That kind of information. It shows improvements. Somewhere on here it shows, oh, up here at the top, value and taxes, sales, which is what I was talking about. If there had been, sales in the last 10 or so years, you would see them here and you could see what the document information was, so you could go back to land records and find it. It also gives you maps. So you might not know the address, but if you find an address close to it, you could search for that on here and go to this map and click on interactive map. It shows me that parcel I was looking at, but I'm like, okay, my guy lives down the street two properties. I can click on this and then it gives me the info on that address.
Oh,
So
hmm.
this is a good way to get more current information on parcels is the assessor's office.
And then is
Okay.
that for all counties or states?
Um,
Do the assessor that way?
they don't all have this exact format and this exact data, but they all have similar information. I use it a lot in Texas for work, and it's very similar. And almost every county I've had to work in Texas also have those interactive maps where you can click around to see who owns the property around it.
This
So-
is amazing because we are starting a historic district. And
Uh-huh.
we need to find out not only the owner of the property, but where does the owner live? Because most of it is rental.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the best thing about this, just like we saw that one that said their address was in Muskogee. It's where they're mailing the tax bill to get paid. So
Okay,
it's going to be the owner of the property.
excellent.
Okay. All right. So that was Tulsa County. Texas has a great system, a couple of great systems to use if you're looking for records there. This Texas file I use all the time, and it has the different counties you can click on, and then you can search, and then you can pay a fee and download the document you need. This shows the start date 1912, the end date 2023, plat maps from 1882,
Hmm.
linked reference documents. So a linked reference document is when in Texas, they refer back to previous deeds in lots of documents. So you can, like, if you search for a legal description, you'll see all of these different documents that relate to a particular piece of property. And a lot of them refer to a certain document, and it will show that information in the list. Let's just type Smith in this and see what happens. I'm not logged in. We'll see if it'll let me even look at it. Good news, they found 5,000 records matching
Ooh.
my search in Reeves County, but I need to be logged in to actually look at the
See.
data. There's another one that Texas has that I use all the time too, and I don't know if nope. I have a login for through my work email, but it's the same way. You pick a state, and actually there's some California on here and some New Mexico and Texas. You pick the county, and it didn't like that county, I guess. Aransas, I know that one has some in there. Come on. Let's go down to Reeves County because it has a lot of stuff. Pecos, how's that?
Well, they say, I think it's because you're not logged in yet.
Yeah, probably. But anyway, it's kind of the same way in that it will let you download the document that you find. And I use this one on a daily basis for work, downloading documents all the time. All kinds of, and in Texas, I helped solve a property issue at work recently based on an 1855 survey that I found on this website. So they said their title people usually only go back 30 years. They don't go back to 1855. I was like, well, sometimes you got to go all the way.
That's right.
Oh, you don't need to know what I'm buying at Lowe's.
Oh, I don't know. It's almost Christmas.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so here, like we were talking about earlier, this is Family Search website. You go to the catalog. Under place, you're going to type in where you want to search. Let's just say Payne. Payne. You search. It's going to show you what records. I'm going to click on land and property. And it's got blue line maps. Noble County Homesteaders. I bet that's a book. No, it's actually microfiche that's only
Mhm.
available in the library. Property holders from Payne County Township Atlas.
Oh, six.
Carolyn, that might be a good place for you. That book right there. Of course, I picked one that doesn't have a bunch of records. That one's locked. Okay. This is going well.
But at least you're showing what we can run into and,
Right?
not
Right.
get discouraged.
Right. Well, that's the one thing you have to be as a genealogist is persistent, right?
That's one of the reasons I have trouble with Payne County is not a lot of it is online.
Yeah, I hear you. All right.
Tulsa is a good one.
Yes. Okay, this one will, these are all locked. This is
What does
not
that
helping me.
mean?
But see,
Tulsa
it means,
isn't locked.
okay, I'll go back to Tulsa, but one thing I wanted you to see on this one, Indian allotment record.
Mhm.
That's in the land records in Delaware County.
Hmm.
All right, let's go back to Tulsa.
On that one you just gave it as an example that was locked, does that mean that it might be available in Delaware County?
It would be available in Delaware County. It's just not available online through Family Search. They are not, I'm sure by some copyright license with Delaware County, they're not letting them make it available online. Okay, we're in Tulsa County now. There's an index to the deed. These are all locked. So we can't look at those, but you can see the types of records. There's deeds. There's direct and inverted. Direct means that it's giving you the,
Annette, I just
pardon?
got into those. Mine, it's not locked for me.
you know what it is? I'm not logged
You're
in.
not signed in.
Thank you, Diane. That's the problem.
Yeah, there we
Look
go.
at that. Look at that.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to click on grantor index to the deeds. It's just like you're looking at it in the book. Tells you what the book is. Where's the flip? And then you start going, this is a grantor alphabetical list. You start going through the list. The left is the grantor and the right is the grantee. This is the day that it was recorded. That's not the date of the deed. Keep that in mind too when you're looking at deeds.
Again,
People
how
s-
did you get to that page?
I clicked on I just clicked on grantor index.
So
Carol?
you were in Family Search, but you clicked
Family
on
Search.
records.
I
Did
clicked
you
on,
select catalog?
I
catalog.
did
Okay,
Yeah.
catalog.
catalog. I put my place in. And
Uh-huh.
then when I got to Tulsa County, I went down to land and property. And then I found an entry that looked interesting, deed records. So let's go back to this record here.
Okay, thank you.
People could sign a deed anytime and file it in any time. They didn't necessarily sign it and file it the same day. So keep that in mind too. Even in when you're looking at the newspaper records and they publish the notice about somebody's filing a deed, it's telling you the date it's recorded, not the date that they signed it and gave it to the other person, the date that it's recorded with the county. This one has a book and page number. That's what you're going to need when you go to the county and get that record. That's going to be the quickest way to get that record. I'm going to go to Tulsa County. I'm going to say, I need a deed recorded March 3rd, 1900 in book, I think that says HH, page 360.
Well, those books are actually online too.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go to Tulsa.
No, but if this was another county that didn't have them
Yes.
available, that's definitely what I would use. Is I
Yes.
would give them that information. And again, I would look through the whole index. I wouldn't just, I would flip through the pages to make sure there were no A's on the, Z page, because it happens.
Yeah.
What's that stuff on the left-hand side, the A, B, C, D columns, E, F, G,
These-
H column?
So these big books at the courthouse have little tabs, and that's how you flip to a certain section. So right now we're at the very beginning. We're on AA to AL. And then the next tab is AM to AZ, just to help you flip to a certain section of the index, Linda.
What's on the
Or if-
left side? What are
On the
those?
left, oh,
Yeah,
these
there.
letters,
Uh-huh.
I have no idea what those letters are.
Oh, okay.
I know sometimes they have weird indexing means and methods, and I thought maybe that was,
I have no idea
of
what
those.
that means. Huh. Usually when I see one of these books, this part is not there.
Oh,
It just has the grantor, grantee, and then the other information.
And I
There's an-
never see the grantor as just the last name.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting too. I haven't seen it that way either. I had let me see if I can find this document, because it's a very interesting way to look for land records. In some counties, they don't all have this. I think I was in Delaware County, and they had some books that were for the section, township, and range. So they had a book for each section and township and range. Then you could open that book up and you could find the different entries by that legal
Hmm.
to go forward. Why is this in my way? And when I showed it to somebody, they said, "How did you get that page?" And I said, "You're not taking it."
uh-oh.
Here it is. It's called a numerical index. Let's see if this will let me share it, because it was very helpful, because I could go down the page. Yep. And find, so this is the document. And again, it's by section, township, and range. Grantor and grantee, the type of document. So warranty deed, mortgage, quitclaim deed, affidavit. But over here to the right, see, it has lots, and then it has northeast quarter, northwest quarter, southeast quarter, southwest quarter, and then you'll see like little things in that.
Mhm.
So if you know what your person's legal description is, say mine was, in the northeast quarter, I look for lines that have something marked in that are in this section, in section 11, 25, 23. So I trace that down and see this guy's in the southeast, east half,
Mhm.
and that's my guy. That's my guy,
Ah, okay.
A.L. Hood. And this is where he sold to N.C. Gallimore, or he mortgaged. He didn't sell it. He gave N.C. Gallimore a mortgage on his property. So now when I want to see what happened next on that piece of property, I can continue to chase it down until I go, oh, here's southeast, east half again. Oh, here's where A.L. Hood gave a warranty deed to J. Sewell Milburn.
Hmm.
And they, in Delaware County, they had these books that went all the way through. And it was a much faster way for me to, instead of looking through every book, through all the indexes for A.L. Hood, I could get, if I knew the legal description, I could chase it down on this and see each transaction that happened with that property.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's interesting.
And then this J. Sewell Milburn, or whatever his name is, Milburn, gave a warranty deed to J.G. Austin later on it. And over here to the right, it's giving me how many acres the property was and the book and the page number for that record. So it's 30 acres. My guy's mortgage is in book 61, page 263. And then down here, it says book 98, page 130. So I knew exactly which book to go to and which page, or to tell the clerk, hey, this is the document I need.
Ah,
But this is the one where they said, how did you get that page? And I said, it's mine. Can't have it.
Can you do that for Oklahoma County?
I don't know. I haven't been to Oklahoma County to look at records like that.
Can you look and see if it's online?
I could
Because I
try-
have no idea where you are.
Okay, let's see. Let's see what Oklahoma County.
We're
'Cause
in
I have an
Tulsa.
address that I cannot find.
Okay. You know, sometimes addresses change too, even in towns. They
Well,
change street names, they change all kinds of stuff.
I was just wondering because I haven't been able to find it. It's called 120 Southwest 21st Street. And this was where my grandparents lived in 1950. And they had moved from Muskogee from Muskogee in 1947 to 1950. I mean, they moved from Muskogee in 1947 to Oklahoma City. And so this is probably the first place they lived. And I tried to find it on Google and I couldn't.
So have you
I would like to know if
looked
they
at
owned
city
it.
directories?
They don't have it in the night. They don't have the 1950 out for
In
the
the Oklahoma History Center doesn't have the 1950 Oklahoma
not
City
on
directory?
Ancestry. It doesn't.
Oh, no, but I bet you they might have it at the Oklahoma History Center.
Oklahoma
And
History
the
Center.
other thing I would do, which is something I like to do on those city directories, Carolyn, is that I look for my person, I get their address, and then there's a section in that book, generally in the back of the book, that's by street address. And so I find their street address and then I can see who their neighbors are. And then I can also look for their neighbors when I'm looking for records to see if I can pinpoint things about that.
Because what got me in on that was my mother or my dad's marriage record just popped up online and I have it, but it popped up with the address.
Oh,
And I went and looked at it on Google and it doesn't look like the house that I knew, but I contacted my cousin and she says, yes, but the siding has changed it. But my dad had told me he never lived in that house and he was emancipated when he was 17. And he said he never lived in that house. So I got to thinking, well, I wonder where he lived if he was 19 in the 1950 census. And I realized I didn't have the 1950 census. So I went looking.
mhm.
And the address I gave you was the 1950 census and I can't find it.
On the 1950 property was owned or rented?
They were rent. I don't know.
Okay.
It just said it wasn't a farm.
Can't you
Okay.
get the enumeration district for 1950?
Oh,
See the map?
let's see.
Well, and that's another thing I didn't bring up was census records. If you can find them on the census records, you can get at least a street address off of that sometimes if they lived in town.
Yeah, that's
using
where I
land
got the
records.
street address.
And
Because it was on the corner of Robinson
yeah,
and Southwest 21st Street. And I know
What-
where Robinson is.
what's your guy's name?
Leverage, Leverich. And it was
L-
Clarence Ralph. And I don't know which
Okay.
way they did it. Because he always went by Ralph, but sometimes he went by Clarence.
Well, I hit the wrong button. This is in 1961, a deed from Larry Joe Leverich to Clarence. And do you know what the edux means?
And others?
And wife.
Oh,
And wife, yeah.
And
oh,
wife.
okay.
That's what that one means.
That's
This
lots
is
of-
the Oklahoma County website.
Now that there, though, Larry Joe is his son, not my dad.
Well, but it looks
He-
like he sold
he-
it to them.
This
What
is-
did he do? Buy the trailer for him?
It's Larry Joe is deeding it to his dad. Larry
Probably
Joe's
because
the
his dad paid,
grantor.
because
Yeah.
Grandpa probably paid for it because he paid for everything for Larry.
So the other thing is, see how
May
this says
Park.
unofficial across it?
Now,
A
how
lot
did
of
you
a lot
find
of
that?
these counties will let you download unofficial copies. And if you wanted
Yeah, I'm
one
not
that
real
didn't
picky
say
about
that,
that.
yeah, me neither. But if you wanted one that didn't say that, you could contact the county and get a
Warranty
copy.
deed.
I just went to the site. You want me to put it in the chat?
Yes, if you would,
Let's see.
because I can't follow you. You go so fast.
Sorry.
And my computer don't go that fast.
Well,
Well,
it's
if
see-
you put the information in there, then she can.
Well, I know she's got the websites already up,
Uh-huh.
and so I can't.
okay.
And so I
Let's
know that's
see.
part of the problem is she's not typing them in because she's
Here's-
already got them up.
Here is the Oklahoma County one. I just put it in the chat. But all I
Okay.
did was type in a name and that went back to 1961. It says this is indexed through August the 7th. I was trying to see if it told how far back it went. Let's see. I wish I knew somebody to look for that was, tell me a really old governor.
I have no idea.
Like, tell me somebody you know in Oklahoma City from the early 1900s.
Leverage.
Okay, we already tried him. It didn't
Well,
come
there's
in.
other leverages there. My great grandfather
Okay.
lived there.
Let's just try that last name then. We'll see what we get.
There's Jasper and there's John B. Leverage.
It's searching.
Because they all lived there.
But did they have land? That would be the.
It's really thinking about it. It is really thinking about it. Well, while that's searching, History Geo. Oh, the BLM. This is the
Mhm.
BLM website. Has anybody not been to the BLM website to look for somebody?
I've just gotten there through History Geo.
Okay.
On
You
directly.
can go to the site and you can search. We'll search for my old Dover people in Oklahoma and see what we get. Search patents. You can
I like
use
it
legal.
because it has maps.
Yes, yeah. So here's my guy. Here's his property that he got. And it's got the patent image here. So I have the exact legal description and the date he got the property. So I have all that information to then trace the property forward. Tells that he got it through the land office at Kingfisher.
Mhm.
Here's the homestead certificate number and the application. So now I can order his homestead application, which I have, but if I didn't, I could use that to order it. Then it's also got related documents and there's surveys and track books and things like that. But I always like to look at those original surveys by different time periods, because they sometimes have interesting lines and things on them that you wouldn't think to look at. Let's just look at one of those. Come on, where did it go? It's not going to show it to me. Plat image. There you go.
That's neat.
This one's from this is Oklahoma from 1874, I think it said,
Mhm.
but it shows this land. It just amazes me that they were able to go out there in the 1800s and come up with a map like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
without getting killed. about
Yeah.
Well,
Indians.
well, there was that too, but that's so. And the other thing is it also shows, let's go back to the original one. Related documents. So these are other people in that same area that I can check out and see their information. Let's go back and see if her Oklahoma County thing ever came up. Okay. It's giving me the newest first.
I won't know the newest people.
We're going to go to the very end. We're going to go to page 6. If it comes up.
Showing page 6.
I'll go back one page.
Yeah.
Ned, I did the same search and it looked like the leverage went back to like 1939.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Where do
Okay.
you
Took a
get
while on
the-
my end too. so.
And if I had taken the time to actually look at it, she probably tells on here somewhere how far they go back.
Well,
Yeah,
I know they
sometimes they're
were
good
there in
about
the 1880s in Cleveland County.
Oh, okay. Well, I just mean as far as whether or not the county has everything scanned
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. Well, and
So-
I also have to consider that Oklahoma wasn't a state then, so the
Yep.
Indian Territory stuff, who knows?
Yeah,
if
true,
we even
true
have
that,
that.
true that.
Mhm.
Okay,
ahead.
history geo. The last thing website I want to talk about, and it's a subscription service, but a lot of your library subscriptions include history geo. So if you've got a Bartlesville library card or a Tulsa library card, check and see if history geo is part of that benefit.
Mhm.
Where did he go? I thought I had, I'm in. Oh, maybe I was just going to go here. I could enter a surname here. And it's going to tell me all the states that have hits with Dover in it and how many hits they have and what project it is. These are first landowners projects. They also have antique maps collection. But we're going to go down here and find Oklahoma County's first landowners projects. It's going to tell me what counties that there's Dovers in. I know my guys are in Dewey County. What I love about this too is that not only can I find him, but then I can click over and see the Google Maps. But this right here, this little thing that just popped up when I clicked
Mhm.
on him, now it's not going to come up, told me what all those lands had been. Where did it go? Anyway, let's go back to him.
Are you looking at the county boundary history down there?
No, I just had my cursor over it and it popped up and it had the different types of property it had been over the years. This one tells me his patent date, the county, the short legal description, what authority it's under, because there are different authorities even for homestead exemptions. And while I'm thinking about it, can anyone tell me what state had the most land given out by homestead applications?
I don't know.
I'm
I
gonna
just saw
say- I'm gonna
Kansas.
say either Nebraska or Kansas.
it was
Kansas.
Nebraska. It was
Oh.
Nebraska.
Oh, wow.
Brian Reinhardt at Civil War Records just had he's been putting some trivia on his page and that was one of them. I was like, I'm going to remember that.
Mhm.
That is
So-
good to remember.
Mhm.
It is. So anyway, there's other things. I can view this spot in Google Maps. So if I wanted to go there today and see my great-great-grandfather's land, I could know exactly where it's at.
Yeah,
but-
I love that feature.
I know, right? The BLM source, it takes me right to that website
Ah,
to get that patent. And then or it takes me right to the document, which there was an error. So that's one. And the other thing that I can do is I can set up if I have a subscription, which I do to the site, is that I can set up my own people over here so I can go right to their lands anytime I want. You know, I mark them and then I can go back and click on all of their spots and see the information that I have on them. It takes me right to him. There's Daniel.
Now
and
you,
his,
you can do that because you have a subscription, but
yes,
on the Tulsa link, we can't do that.
right.
At
You
the
can see
library.
all the information. You just can't set up your My People pages. So. All right. That is everything that I can think of to tell you guys tonight in
Can I ask a question?
an hour and 15 minutes.
That,
Yes.
that's good. Go ahead, Linda.
If you were going back to homesteading,
Mhm.
I've gotten the patent information for homesteading in Kansas, but is there like an actual application form, or is there more paperwork than appears on the BLM?
Mhm. Through Brian Reinhardt's a good resource to get things like that pulled, land records like that if you want a quicker service, but there's lots of services out there. You can order it directly from NARA, but I can't remember. Somebody said the other day what the wait time on stuff like that was through NARA, and it was crazy. But
Okay,
there
it's
is an
within that.
application. Let's see if I've got one I can show you. I have several, so.
And then after, I don't remember what the time period is, but you had so much time to work the land and improve
Mhm.
it. And then you
Mhm.
had to submit more information for them to
Right.
actually give you the land. And I think that's where those witnesses come in.
Well, I've got the
Yes.
newspaper, where they had to post in the newspaper.
I think it was
I've got
5
one.
years, 8 years, and 10 years.
Yeah.
Because I
That-
have the homesteading of my husband's great great grandfather in Montana, and it has all those questions on it. Because they were trying to take the land away from him because he was blind.
Well, and that's a good reason to look up those homesteads, the laws, to see what the laws said for that. Okay, let me share
Well,
this.
somebody else wanted the land,
Yeah,
and he had it. He had done it all the work before he became blind, and he got ill and became blind. And so they were proving that he had done the work himself, because you have to do the work yourself, but you can't hire it done. That's according to that homestead thing.
Linda, this is the application for that DW Dover, and it's 16 pages. Now, if you talk to a lot of people, they'll tell you not to bother ordering these applications. They'll also tell you not to bother ordering the cash sale documents on land records. And the only thing I can say about that is I got a cash sale folder on one of my guys when I was in Washington, DC, and there was a 40-page deposition in it because there was a contest on the land, and it told exactly about the house he'd built, the furnishings he'd had in it, and all kinds of detail. And if I had listened to them, I wouldn't have that information. So.
Well, that's why I thought there was more to it than just the actual patent at the end of the process. And
Yeah. Well,
um,
the application comes before the patent. The patent's the last thing they do in it. But this is, you can see this, here's some of the documents. Here are the witnesses that he used down here. The certificate of the officers. This is the affidavits showing when he published it in the paper. And then you start getting into the actual homestead documents. There's a legal description. Lots of pages like that. Here's an affidavit. Here's an affidavit. A native born citizen of the United States of America, over 21 years of age, married, and the head of a family.
well, the
And-
person I'm thinking of was a single woman at the time. So I'm really curious to see what all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would be
yeah.
curious too. I love that this has his original signature on it right here.
Yeah, those are so cool.
I know. Somewhere. Okay, here's the affidavit. Where's it at? Here it is. The proof testimony of the witness.
Hmm.
So here's the questions. How long have you known them? And, you know, different information like that. About 40 acres. House, well, stable, orchard, 60 acres. Fencing, maybe 40 acres breaking. So information about what they've done on the property to improve it. So each of those witnesses had to do a proof statement. And then here's his thing where he filled out the information. Tells how old he is, what the name of the area he's living in, Deltas. Where were you born? Ohio. So that's the kind of information you'll find in those.